Howdy YouTubes. Hope you're all doing well out there, having a good weekend before the 4th of July. Another Perez here, and today I'm going to talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which is the 5th and final, presumably, entry in the Indiana Jones film franchise. Unlike the other 4 entries, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were not involved in this film. George Lucas, famously created Indiana Jones, and he wrote the first 4 movies in the franchise, which were all directed by Steven Spielberg. Instead, we have James Mangold, who's, directed films such as 3:10 to Yuma, 2 Wolverine movies, The Wolverine, and then Logan. And he's also directed Ford versus Ferrari, so, I'm a pretty big fan of his. And he's the reason why, despite some early kind of negative publicity out of film festivals and other critics and reviewers, they kind of been like dogging on this movie, but since James Mangold was directing, I was ready to give this film a chance, and I was still looking forward to this movie. So the film starts off, we get a cold open. We're back at the end of World War II behind Nazi lines, and we find Indy, and he's on the search for the Lance of Longinus, which is historically the spear that Jesus Christ was pierced through when he was crucified. And also on this journey, we encountered the Archimedes dial, which is, the Dial of Destiny, which is, what the movie's about. And, since this is a younger Indiana Jones back when he was, having his adventures, they obviously had to de-age Harrison Ford. And, I think for the most part, the CGI looked pretty good on Harrison Ford, making him look younger. Like, we get that shot in the trailer where, we see Indy captured young Indy captured by the Nazis with a bag over his head. Take the bag off, it, reveals Indy. And that shot looked pretty well done. And, again, for the most part, it looked pretty good. But, however, this flashback scene, kind of stretched out. It took up the first about 20 or so minutes of the film. And, when you have a character on the run, in action, and you have to use all the CGI on him, it can look a bit spotty at times. Like, Hollywood still hasn't perfected how to properly display facial features and expressions on our characters. So there's a few times where Indy kind of has like a dead look in his eyes when, he's on the run. But let's fast forward a bit to after this, and we're back in the present day, or at least present day in this film, which is 1969. So we're in the middle of the space race, and the U.S. is about ready to send the man on the moon. The Indy we meet at this time, he's he's older, and he's also alone. Like, he's just by himself, Mary and his wife and Mutt aren't with him, his son. And we'll discover why that's the case later in the film, so I'm not going to ruin that for you. But yeah, this Indy Jones, he's a college professor who's getting ready to retire. He's literally the old man who tells his neighbor to turn down the music because it's too loud. He puts alcohol in his coffee. He's just kind of, alone by himself, kind of regretting how his wife and son aren't with him, and again, we will discover why that's the case in the movie. But I saw some people say that Disney was giving Indy the Luke Skywalker treatment, how heroes that we grew up with, full of adventure or hope, end up becoming old men who live alone and are full of regret, and it's kind of depressing to them. See the heroes that they looked up to become this like shell of their former selves. That's one reason why I'm such a big fan of Superman and Captain America, just characters that I think symbolize hope and who actually kind of inspire me in some ways. But going back to Indy, I wouldn't say he went quite as bad as Luke in The Last Jedi. He's not, we're not going to discuss The Last Jedi here, but Indy, though, kind of reluctant, he's still, he's willing to travel across the world in this film to prevent, the bad guys from getting the artifact in this film, the MacGuffin in this film, the Dial of Destiny. He doesn't leave it all to a British girl with an accent who I'm not talking about Rey, and like in The Last Jedi. Man, I'm making so many like connections between Star Wars and Indiana Jones. I mean, we got George Lucas, of course, Harrison Ford in both franchises. But anyway, in this film we meet I keep forgetting the actress's name. Oh yeah, Phoebe Waller-Bridge's, she's the actress. She portrays Helena Shaw, who in this film is Indy's goddaughter, and she kind of kickstarts a series of events in this film. Although she's kind of portrayed, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't like her character a whole lot. They kind of did this thing, they gave her the Han Solo arc from, man, I'm doing another Star Wars reference, but the Han Solo arc from, you know, A New Hope, where we get a character who's morally ambiguous at best, who's all about the money. She's made some deals with kind of corrupt people that got into some bad spots, all like Han Solo. And they kind of gave her like, you know, a kind of a redemption arc, although it's just not quite as earned as Han Solo and A New Hope. And it wasn't really as earned, I thought, in Indiana Jones. But anyway, back to her character. I didn't really like her a whole lot. She was very smug and like so honestly disrespectful and rude to Indy throughout most of the film until they were like, you know, just friends at the end. But she is, again, the goddaughter of Indy, and she's the daughter of this guy we just meet in this film, who was a guy obsessed with the Dial of Destiny, Archimedes' dial. And she's just very like mean-spirited throughout. So, but anyway, Mads Mikkelsen plays the villain in this one, and I'm, you know, a big fan of his throughout different roles that he's had. And he did his best in this film. Like, there are a few lines that they gave him that I think if anyone else had said them, what they just would have called as super cringe. But he put forth the work. I actually could have used more of him in this film. Like, he did some, they could have given him more to work with and do in this film, which is kind of funny, since this film is 2.5 hours long, which brings me to a big criticism of this film that I had, the runtime. So Hollywood's been doing this thing a lot lately where, you know, they stretch all these movies out, and for them, I don't really care about that for the most part. Like, if it's a good film, I'm going to enjoy it, but this movie did not earn its runtime in my estimation. Watching this, I felt every minute of this so much kind of dragged on way too long. So many like unnecessary plot points that led to nothing, such as Helena Shaw's relationship with, I forgot what nationality that crime family was. Forgive me about that, but yeah, this movie dragged on way too long, I'll be honest. At some point, I was having trouble keeping my interest in the movie. But all in all, you know, Harrison Ford, he plays the role of, you know, a grizzled veteran Indiana Jones, who's kind of like over adventure, and at this point in his life, I feel like kind of mirrors Harrison Ford's his take on his action career, you know, just getting a few more roles until he's ready to call it quits. So I feel like his character kind of like also Han Solo, how it just mirrors Harrison Ford in real life. You know, it was good to see him back, you know, with the whip and the, you know, the hat and all. You also get a good score, a great score by John Williams, who, you know, they were able to bring him back, you know, from Star Wars. You know, I don't need to list all of the great things that John Williams done, one of the best composers, not just in film history, but in my opinion, he's one of the best conductors ever across all the, you know, across the entire history of music. You get Sala, he makes an appearance, not much more in the trailer. Not much more than what you see in the trailer. Doesn't really have a whole lot to do in this film. You also have Antonio Banderas, what's the name of his character? Ronaldo. He didn't really do a whole lot either, but it was kind of cool to see him, but again, it didn't really lead to anywhere. And yeah, not saying that these films have been like really realistic. Like, you know, you have spirits coming out of the Ark of the Covenant, killing Nazis, and then you have, you know, men being aged thousands of years. So, I mean, it's always been kind of, you know, a little fantastical, but there are a few things in this movie that you know, certain characters should not have survived based on the rules that they set, but, you know, I can just ignore that. And this film kind of got a little sci-fi with, you know, I'm not going to explain why, but especially toward the third act, some of the things that they did. And yeah, actually, speaking of the third act, it was getting kind of shaky there for quite a bit. And I was kind of worried how they were going to end Indiana Jones's story, but it was looking shaky there for a bit, but I think they kind of got the landing for the most part. It's just, like, all in all, this film, like, didn't do a whole lot necessarily bad, but there wasn't anything that really stuck out to me personally. Again, this film just went on and just dragged for a while at certain points, especially in the middle. And I know it was cool to see Harrison again. It was cool to see Indiana Jones again go on one more adventure, but it's just this one felt quite a bit dull to me. And again, there wasn't much memorable to me in this film. It was just right in the middle. You know what? I will say that this was super mid, and I'll give it a 5 out of 10. And yeah, I think we're gonna call it for this film. Obviously, you know, it makes sense since he's older, but you don't really get to see Indy use his whip a lot. He used his gun at some point, which I didn't have a problem with that. But yes, all in all, this film, not a whole lot really sticks out, and this film had no reason to be as long as it was, trust me. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and I will catch you all later. Peace.